A new temple is being built in Israel. With the recently performed water libation at the Feast of the Tabernacle in Israel, a third temple is on its way. What is the significance of the third temple? What's the third temple celebration? In this video, all questions will be answered. Before we launch into the hub of this video, it's good to learn one or two things about the Feast of the Tabernacle and the water libation. The Feast of the Tabernacle, also known as Sukkot, is one of the three celebrations principal to the Jewish people. It is so important that all Jewish men are expected to be before Yahweh in any of their chosen places. But that is even beside the point. Its main significance lies in its reverence as a remembrance celebration of the Jewish deliverance from the Egyptians by the mighty hand of God. Not only that, but it is also done in remembrance of the 40-year journey to the Promised Land. But usually it is not done with the water libation until recently. Now let's take a look at why the discussion about water libation is so important to us. Water libation ceremonies throughout the Bible are often tied to temple events. In the prelude to the second temple renovated by Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, as discussed in Ezra, water libation held a monumental place. It is as if it were a signal of the rebuilding of such a thing. This year, it's undoubtedly because of the construction of the temple. In Hebrews, it is called Nishach Mahem. It often takes place after sacrifices, which are usually omitted nowadays. In the Second Temple period, the Nishach Mahem was among the most joyous parts. It brings to the ceremony an untold ecstasy, a deep sense of belonging to one's tribe, and an unmatched self-sacrifice for the pursuit of the goals of the tribe. That way, there is no other method of ushering in the third temple better than that. After the libation ceremony, for 7 days, a priest would climb up the ramp to the brazen altar in the temple court and pour a jug of water into a dripping bowl on the altar. For most rabbis, no moment is as joyful as that moment. In the east lies a body of water called the Spring of Gihon, which is where the water is drawn from. This spring is steeped in history and rich in spiritual significance. For example, it is believed that King David was anointed here. In 1 Kings 1:45, King Hezekiah redirected the water from the spring to the Pool of Siloam, which lies within the walls of Jerusalem. Water from the Pool of Siloam, you must never forget, was used in the red heifer ordinance during the time of Moses. Commanded by God, as told in Numbers chapter 19, to mix flowing water with the ashes of the red cow to purify those who were unclean, the Pool of Siloam was a natural choice, especially because the water has all the features that the water commanded by God should have, like being fresh and not stagnant. Could it be that the Jews viewed the rebuilding of the temple differently from others? Let's find out. Many Jews view the rebuilding of the temple as a monumental and extremely life-changing event. They believe it is the fulfillment of the prophecy, and it signals to them, among other things, the imminent arrival of a new Messiah. The Messiah they uphold will bring the peace that many of the worlds have long been idolizing, and will create a renewed interest in everything spiritual. When the third temple was built, they upheld it, and everyone went there to worship God without fear or hatred of another. It's not in the Jewish Talmud that this is only told. It is often told in almost all religions worldwide. Apart from showing that the story of a one-person ruler who will take over the world is ubiquitous, it also shows the possibility of a salient truth. But looking at the picture of the Messiah being drawn up in all religions, it seems the Bible doesn't agree with categorizing such a Messiah as a Savior. Rather, such a Messiah is an Antichrist. According to the book of Thessalonians, the Antichrist will first come as a peacemaker. He will unite all religions into one and make people follow God as he would claim, but just all of a sudden, he would undermine Yahweh's authority and refer to himself as God. He will then force people to get the mark of the beast, and after then, the Son of God will come. We know this because the Jews are building the third temple now. And while they think they are doing it for the Messiah, we know they are doing it for the Antichrist, who will come before the Messiah. Of course, this shows that the end is near. Now, let's talk about the recent Jewish celebration of the Feast of the Tabernacle. The Feast of the Tabernacle procession was spearheaded by a Jewish priest, Kohanim. Leading the procession were the Levites, talented in musical skills, playing their instruments as they moved one place to another. They started at the Old City of Jerusalem access point, the Dung Gate. The Kohanim dressed in the vestments and commanded by the Bible, while the Levites wear special garments and commanded by the same source. They moved from the old passageways into the valley of the Temple Mount, singing old Jewish melodies. This time around, the procession was led by Rabbi Ariel. Of course, there are other rabbis there. If you want to know about the others present, you could head to Israel 365 after this video to get the names of the other priests. From the sea, where the parade had begun fulfilling the ritual by pouring a pot of water, the procession returned to the top of the mountain, where the model altar and its utensils were placed in a noticeable place in front of the western wall. Embellishing the altar were willow branches, as was done in the destroyed Second Temple. 2 Kohanim then mounted the stone altar in the temple's inner courtyard and placed 2 silver goblets in the southwest corner. 1 Kohanim poured water from a silver flask. In contrast, the other poured wine from a second goblet, both liquids running down holes in the altar, a traditionally designated area for this rite ceremony. Everything ended with a blessing from the priest, followed by the Hawk Hill ceremony once every 7 years. Of course, the water was not that essential, but the libation is. Even more than that, as a part of the oral tradition of Moses, the holiday is designated a happy holiday. The libation of water is the main driver of that happiness. The ceremony would normally last 15 hours in the temple, with celebrations that would last all night until the temple service resumed the next day. Surprisingly, this time around, many people came from around the world to celebrate Sukkot, and just like that, it became an international day of worship. Pilgrims started from the Siloam Pool, an important biblical reference, before embarking on their journey to Jerusalem for the biblical festivals before going to the inner court of the Temple Mount to present their sacrificial offerings, which would be washed and ritually cleaned in the pool. The pool is now located in the southeast of the walls of the Old City of Jerusalem and is supplied by the waters of the Gihon Springs delivered through the Hezekiah Tunnel. Now back to the libation ceremony. The libation ceremony marks the end of the Shemitah sabbatical year in October on Rosh Hashanah. According to the Talmud of the Babylonians, there is a high tendency that the Messiah will arrive during the Shemitah. The prophecy is often backed up by Amos 9 verse 11, where God said he would raise the Sukkot of David's fallen booth. The prophecy then goes on to list hundreds of complex things that will happen before the arrival of the Messiah, which had been said to be a year after the Shemitah. But there are lots of things that could be improved with this prophecy. Let's start with the first one. Babylonian Talmud, like the Quran, is a collection of thoughts of the leading rabbis of that period. Since it does not speak with the authority that people see in the Bible, it is very easy for people to consider it a great authority. So, the prophecy is often taken with levity hands. But, well, the end time is still near. Another reason it will not be important is that the book did not even enter the canon. It was outlawed in earlier centuries because the priests of that time figured out it probably had a lot to do with the apostates. So how will that kind of book be accepted by mainstream theologians? We only need to ask people seeking evidence for the Antichrists. They've been searching every nook and cranny of the earth to tape this and that together to fine-tune their messages. They succeed because many have been buying them. Or what can explain their choice to start declaring the return of the Messiah by this book? Can't it even be a lie that is meant to prepare the hearts of many for the eventual return of the Antichrist? According to the Bible, the Son of God will never return until that son of perdition has manifested himself. Now, we can see that the son of perdition is near. For example, the use of the Babylonian Talmud to justify the imminent arrival of the Antichrist is an example. Apart from that, the perfect complacency of the Church. There have been reported cases of the Pope trying to sign to a unified religious body. That's clearly a passageway for the Antichrist. So the person mentioned in the Babylonian Talmud is no other than the Antichrist. He's the one. He is not supposed to be the devil, but somebody Messiah-like. And during his coming, all these things we see are perfect shows of it. Take for example the fact that the Jewish do not believe in the Messiahship of Jesus. And they are hoping that all of us on the Christianity side will think we get things wrong one of these days. Doesn't matter. What matters is that they are building the temple. Brothers and sisters, the temple will be completed soon, and we will enter a new age. We do not know when the Antichrist will come into the world, but it is any time. There is a highly likelihood that he is in the world right now. We want to say there is no way to protect ourselves other than being keen on the gospel of Jesus and following the teachings with the equanimity of the disciples. When the time comes to get the signs of the beast, we hope you will be exempted from it. Because when Jesus comes back, he will be here to burn the Antichrists and his cohorts. We've come to the end of today's video. Thanks for watching till the end. What discovery did you find most shocking? Do you think that the Antichrist is near? What would be a unique reason that you would give to cooperate the refutation by the Bible that the one who is coming after the third temple is built is the Antichrist and not the Messiah? Let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, do not fail to like, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks.